their grandparents. They were living with their grandparents, and because they're both over the age of 65, they really wanted to be able to get the vaccine faster. So again, would love to hear your thoughts and perspective. But what inspired this was originally CBC did a news article on vaccine tourism. So the CBC article this week noted that a number of Canadians have actually been traveling to Florida to get vaccinated, including but not limited to those with vacation homes. So a lot of our, what's the term? Vacation birds or sunbirds or Florida birds. There's a term there that I'm forgetting. But anyways, and so some have presumably traveled to Florida just literally to get the vaccine. Other people were snowbirds. That's the word I was looking for. Thanks, guys. So snowbirds. A lot of snowbirds are designed to get the vaccine. And if you're not familiar with the term, that's often what we call, retirees, whether they're like young retirees or old retirees that decide to go down to Florida and essentially just winter there because it's so much nicer than in the Arctic North that is Canada. So during an interview with Wall Street Journal, Janelle Brynd, a VP for Toronto-based private jet service provider Momentum Jets, explained, "We're getting requests now from clients that are willing to fly into Florida if they have a vaccination appointment and then fly home on the same day." First thing we're going to mention there, guys, reminder, it's a 2-part vaccine. So you actually have to get 2 shots when it comes to it, and they need to be weeks apart. So you're going to have to end up actually booking multiple jet trips. And I'd love to hear, would you guys be willing to pay the $25,000 to $80,000 to book a chartered flight to Florida just so you can get your vaccine faster? I'd love to hear, do you have that sort of money in order to buy or rent a chartered jet? Seems like a very expensive way to get that vaccine, but good news. Even in the US, the vaccine is free. And if your health administered, like if when they administer it, they charge you a fee, you can actually get that reimbursed either through your insurance company or you can actually do it through the US federal government or the state government in Florida. I forget which. So again, it's unclear exactly whether these people have to get both doses from the same vaccination center. I'm going to operate on the assumption you don't, but we actually didn't really dive deep into the details there. And the other thing we don't know is whether Canadian citizens that are going to the US to get vaccines, whether they're actually going to be given any paperwork or documents to prove they got the vaccine. So whether those medical records will easily transfer over to Canada. So again, we weren't able to find a lot of information on that. If you guys know someone that's actually been a vaccine vacationer, I'd love to hear what was their experience, what was their logic, and what was the cost? Did they get paperwork? Things of that nature. Would really love to hear your perspective. And then so also it's important to understand not everyone's happy with the fact that Canadians are going down to the US and taking up vaccines that could be going to Americans. So for example, dual Canadian citizen Claire Archer, who's lived in Florida for 25 years, told CBC, Canadians are taking it from people that are ahead of them. It's not their stockpile. They absolutely should not be here. It's beyond infuriating. And then we've also got on January 10th, Senator Rick Scott of Florida, said vaccines should go first to Floridians, starting with our healthcare and frontline workers and most vulnerable populations. However, on Wednesday, January 20th, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis backed away from his previous plan of allowing anyone 65 plus to get vaccinated in Florida, even if they were not residents. So this is interesting. This is impactful for any snowbirds, Canadian snowbirds that are down in Florida. If you were hoping to get the vaccine in Florida, you might want to do it sooner than later because they might be locking that down. Again, I'm not talking about the ethics or morals of a Canadian getting it in the US. I would love to hear your opinions, though, in the comments. Then finally, it's not surprising to hear that people are seeking an alternative source to get the vaccines. If you guys didn't see earlier this week, we did a story on the vaccine stockpiles here in Canada. And actually, I think the day of or the day after that article came out or the video came out here, it was announced that we're actually going to get 1/5 less of the vaccines this week than expected. And next week, we'll get no vaccines. However, overall, it still sounds like the government and Trudeau, the federal government, is very positive and expecting that we will hit our Q1 quota or expectations. So again, really important to stay on top of this if you guys are interested in that. And particularly, whether you think the vaccine's bullshit or not, understand that there's a good chance until we hit kind of critical mass with the vaccines and people that have already had COVID, the odds of us getting a completely free society back like we used to, not that it was perfectly free back then, but it certainly seemed a little bit freer Am I right? But regardless, until the vaccines become widespread, odds are governments will continue to keep us locked down. And that is a pretty serious implication for us small business owners. So again, we talked about the war on small business yesterday. So on Tuesday, Major General Danny Fortin, the man responsible for leading the vaccine rollout logistics for Canada, said this week's shipment of Pfizer vaccine is 1/5 smaller than what was expected. So again, that just came out on Tuesday. And then the situation with the Pfizer delay is temporary, offered Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Our vaccination objectives for the first quarter of this year, January to March, are not changing. So again, overall, it sounds like there's a lot of miscommunications, and realistically, I don't think anyone knows whether we're actually going to get the number of vaccines that we expect to get, but certainly it seems like the government's trying to toe that line. However, Doug Ford decided to take a shot at the Pfizer execs as well as Trudeau and said, if I was in Trudeau's shoes, I'd be on that phone call every day. I'd be up that guy's yin yang. So far with a firecracker, he wouldn't know what hit him. So I'd love to know, which side are you on? Do you think Trudeau, the diplomat, is playing it smart here, or do you think that a firecracker like Ford should be up someone's ass at Pfizer? I'd love to hear your perspective. But again, obviously, these are confusing and nervous times. People don't know whether they're coming or going. I'd love to hear whether you're coming or going, though, on the vaccine, and whether you'd consider going to the US, or even, let's just say, a different province in Canada got access to it. Would you consider crossing a provincial border in order to get vaccinated? And then what do you think of the irony of traveling to another country while we're under essentially a travel ban in order to get a vaccine earlier from that country's stockpiles? It's just really interesting times, guys. And I, as always, would love to hear your perspective, your thoughts on all this and more. And before we wrap up today's video, let's quickly check out the comment section, and really appreciate all those of you jumping in the comments, all those of you sharing, as well as those of you that smash the like button, because that's actually the currency of this entire show. So appreciate you guys. So snowbirds, yep, that was it. Lara, appreciate it. And you will have to get your vaccine to travel. Certainly that seems plausible. Guess I'm staying in Canada the rest of my life. Alliston Rental, that's actually interesting. I've made a lot of jokes similar to that. Canada's a big, wonderful country. I'm not even sure if I ever have to leave here. I question why I ever left in the first place when I used to. So I don't know. I'd be curious to hear if there's going to be more homebodies like me. And it's not necessarily that I'm scared of COVID or the end of the world, but I'm also like, do I even really need to? So I'd love to hear if people plan to, staycation more often. I think Airbnbs, I've talked about vacation rentals and recreational properties. I see huge opportunities there. We're going in a big way with my business into that niche this year. So we've literally spun off a whole separate business from our wholesaling business that's just going to focus on that niche. I suspect with time, it's going to grow to rival what we're doing with our wholesaling business. If you guys haven't been paying attention, we've got one of, if not the largest wholesaling business in Canada. So really excited by what we're doing here, and really excited that you guys are so active in that comment section. So again, reminder, every day, 12:15-ish, we're going to go live here and cover some current affairs, current news. In addition, we're trying to do 2 stories a day. So later, right after this video, we're going to be talking about CRA scams. So it's going to be that time of the year soon. Everyone's going to be talking about their taxes. It's time for someone to call you, and threaten that you're going to go to jail if you don't immediately transfer them a $500 Amazon gift card to the CRA. So thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next video.